Prepare to get gas because it's time for the week in gear. I've rounded up the hottest new guitar gear drops of the week, and this week's lineup proves that the gear world is absolutely thriving. Grab a cuppa, keep your wallet close, and let's get into it. This episode is sponsored by Gear for Music. More about that in a bit. Shred alert! This one is for the advanced players. Designed in collaboration with that French neoclassical shredder Stéphan Forté, the Ibanez SFS 727 is an extremely limited edition, full-fat, Japanese-built 7-string that blends speed, precision, and an empty wallet. This is classic modern Ibanez. The SFS 727 features a 5-piece maple wenge neck with a rosewood fretboard. There are 27 jumbo frets and a low pro edge tremolo. As for the woods, it's got a flamed maple top on a basswood body and reversed black shark tooth inlays for some evil elegance. I am not leaving it there. I still can't decide on basswood or basswood. Please comment down below. Should it rhyme with pass or ace? Let me know. Right, back to the guitar. The pickups are a Duncan hot rail in the neck and a Nazgul in the bridge. And these are both passive ceramic monsters which are tuned for modern metal tones. It also includes Goto tuners, D'Addario strings, and Prestige fret edge treatment. Does it come with a hard shell case? You bet your beautiful long blonde flowing locks it does. That means yes. Now, this kind of guitar is not really in my wheelhouse, but this is one of those guitars that when you strap it on, it feels like you're not actually holding a guitar. It is super thin, it is super lightweight, and it is super expensive. However, Ibanez rarely disappoint at this price point, and if you're into prog metal and you need an extended range instrument that delivers, this might be one you want to take a look at, especially as there are only 12 in the world, and one of those is staying in the Ibanez Germany archives at Meinl, meaning there are only 11 available to mere mortals. Let's talk about that price. At 2,999 euros, this is not a casual purchase. So if you're still confusing your E strings with your G strings, maybe skip this one. But if you know all the notes of the fretboard and beyond, this is worth further investigation. PRS just bolted one back on, and this one is also limited. Back for a limited run, there's that word again, lots of limited guitars this week. A limited run of 1,000 guitars, the 2025 CE22 reintroduces this classic PRS model with a mahogany body, a curved maple top, and a bolt-on maple neck. There's no basswood or basswood in sight. Actually, this guitar's made a lot of PRS lovers very happy. I checked out the official release video, and in the comments, people are going nuts. It's nice for them. It is finished in satin nitro. It is a 25-inch scale, a 22-fret rosewood board with the expected birdie inlays. It is an archetypal PRS bolt-on. Under the hood are a pair of PRS, that's fun. Under the hood are a pair of PRS 5815 LT humbuckers. So think clear and dynamic, but vintage voiced. There's also the usual 3-way toggle and the push-pull coil split, a PRS patented tremolo, and phase 3 locking tuners. Please note, the bits don't actually make that noise. That was me. Now, the finishes are so PRS in a good way. There is Black Amber, which has a soft spot in my heart, Carol Blue, which I probably shouldn't like, but I do, Faded Blue, Faded Grey Black, ooh, and McCarty Sunburst. And something inside me must have changed, because I looked at that McCarty Sunburst and I thought, yeah, I could see myself playing that. I don't know what's happened. And I don't know if I should ignore this feeling and it will pass, or succumb to the fact that I'm getting older. or that sometimes you can just appreciate a good-looking guitar. And I was kind of worried about mentioning that here because I know I've said the opposite in the past. But people change. I think it's just a good-looking guitar. Let's just move on, okay? Leave me alone. So, composition. So yes, I like it a lot, but I couldn't see myself buying one unless I actually sat down and played it. And if it felt right, and that's only ever happened with one PRS, and I still regret picking that one up in the first place because I still wake up at night thinking about it. No, that's not true, but I still think about it from time to time. It's a great guitar. What I do like is that the spec sheet of this model reads like someone is building a PRS from memory and getting it all spot on. It's classic PRS. If you are a PRS fanatic, then you probably already know that this model is out and that the model costs 3,000 notes and that doesn't even make you flinch. But for many guitar players, this is going to remain either something to ignore or something to aspire to. Yeah, again, another expensive guitar. Don't worry, they're not... Oh, they are kind of... This is quite an expensive week, I think. Let's see what happens. But before we get to the third thing, let's have a moment to cleanse our new gear palettes with some pre-loved stuff from Gear for Music. If you're looking to stretch your budget a little bit further, and let's be honest, who isn't, then I might have found something that's just for you. This week's episode is brought to you by Gear for Music, and specifically their second-hand section. Here you can snag guitars, pedals, amps and saxophones that are pre-loved but have been fully tested. I've been looking for a Rickenbacker 330 12-string for quite a while. That's tempting. I'm going to sort this price low to high, and that space delay is fantastic, and it's only £59. I'd go for that. Or possibly the MXR M104. If you're in the market for a banjo, there's one by Fender there. Quite fancy that. I can't even play banjo. And it's not just about buying, you can also trade in stuff that you don't want anymore for something you do want. And you can get a quote instantly online. They update the stock regularly, so it's worth checking back every 30 minutes. Link is in the video description, gear4music.com, and find something that you may not need, but you definitely deserve. Yes, I was right. There is something not so expensive this week, but this is bound to upset some purists. Initially announced at NAMM this year, Fender have finally made an entry-level acoustic meets electric guitar, the Acoustasonic, this time built in Indonesia. Now, Fender's Acoustasonic Standard Series aims to deliver that controversial hybrid versatility at a new price point. With a solid Sitka spruce top, fully chambered body and Fishman undersaddle pickup paired with a Fender Shawbucker, they're, for those of us who like the idea of the originals but couldn't justify the price, and even the 1,000-ish notes of the player version still felt like a stretch. Let's talk specs. It's got a satin finished Nyato neck with modern deep C profiles. There's rosewood boards, and this should feel rather familiar. You may notice there's no switch. Nope, no switch. You get a single volume knob and a blend control to fade between electric and acoustic tones. It's available in 3 finishes. There's Honeyburst, Black, and Aged Natural. And that's on both the Telecaster model and the Jazzmaster shapes. I like that they've just called it black. Lots of guitar companies are like doing like jet black and midnight black. My tip on the guitar is that if you like the idea of the Acoustasonic, but you feel that you might miss the size of an actual acoustic, go for the Jazzmaster, as the one that I have still feels, for want of a better word, more like a real acoustic, and it's less cognitive dissonance. I remember when the original Acoustasonic was first released and people said it was too expensive and too weird and a guitar that nobody needs. And I liked it, although it was expensive. And I once said that someday there would be a Squier version of the Acoustasonic, and that would finally convince people that this hybrid idea was actually a good one. And it turns out I was close, but not quite right. And instead of going full Squier, Fender's tapping into the same factories where Squiers are often made, but they're still putting a Fender logo on the headstock, which is probably adding to the price, so they could have gone lower, I think. But not much. There is, I don't know. What do I know? Nothing, according to a lot of the comments recently. At around 600 notes, this is never going to convince the naysayers until they arrive on the used market. But if you've been, hang on, whoa, roll back. Even when they arrive on the used market, they probably still won't convince many. But if you've been thinking about an Acoustasonic since the original release, and assuming that these arrive set up well, this could finally be your chance to take the plunge. Don't let the size fool you. This amp might be smaller than your lunch, but it could melt your muffin or your sandwich. Laughed at my own words there. Melt your muffin. Victory's new, more portable deputy is a single-channel 25-watt all-valve head co-designed with none other than Danish Pete, the Garth to Lee Anderton's Wayne. This is built in the UK, it's housed in Victory's classic LUNCHBOX chassis, and it's clearly aimed at players who want vintage British 60s and 70s tones without hauling vintage British weight. Under the hood, you've got a pair of EL86s in the power section, which are less common than EL84s, but apparently with a tighter, slightly cleaner character. All three ECC 83s are driving the preamp, and that makes it, apparently, versatile, touch-sensitive, and a little bit more polite until you tell it not to be. Kind of like us British people until they watch a football match. The front panel keeps things simple but flexible. There's gain, treble, middle, bass, master, and the very welcome reverb. I want every amp to have a reverb in it. There is a 3-way voice switch which toggles from bright and clean to a 6 dB gain lift to that same gain lift but more mid-forward and treble boosted. There's also a bright switch for adding some clarity if you've got mushy humbuckers, and the digital reverb that blends plate and hall is surprisingly lush. I can't believe I've just said lush. The fully bypassable series effects loop is for all your delays, your verbs, and your modulations, shenanigans, and that adds to the versatility. And if you're the kind of person who likes to tweak tubes, it's got external bias test points and the option to run EL84s if that's more your flavor. I love my Victory Sheriff 25 LUNCHBOX. It's a cracking amp. If it had reverb, it would be even better, and I'm really happy to see the stuff this deputy does. At around 1250 notes, this is classic single-channel British tone done with care. Although it seems the Britishness had some much-needed Danish flair, like bacon. Or this video. If you're gigging, recording, or just sick of lugging a 50-watt head up the stairs, the deputy is worth serious consideration, as 25 watts should be enough for a lot of gigs. But skip it if you need channel switching on the fly, loads of modern high gain tones, or if you're married to having a second master volume. This is a focused amp, not a Swiss Army knife.
Pick of the week.
Yes, my pick of the week. Well, Epiphone just kicked the door off the custom shop with their 2025 Inspired by Gibson series. Strap in for this one, we've got strong opinions. This premium reissue range expansion offers 4 Les Pauls, 2 Firebirds, 1 SG, and an ES335. These Epiphones feature historically accurate construction, and I can feel your wallets itching and getting scared already because you know these are going to be expensive. They have long neck tenons, solid tone woods, and period correct hardware, paired with Gibson USA pickups, and I think they might all have custom bucker pickups. Correct me on that if I'm wrong. There's CTS pots and switchcraft wiring, but have they made cheaper Gibsons or more expensive Epiphones? And will we ever know? Let's take a closer look. For the Les Pauls, there's the 1960 Les Paul Special Double Cut reissue in TV Yellow. There's the 1959 Les Paul Standard reissue in Washed, Bourbon Burst, and Deep Cherry Sunburst. There's the 1957 Les Paul Gold Top reissue in, well, gold. And there's the 1960 Les Paul Standard reissue in Iced Tea and Washed Cherry Burst. As for the Firebirds, we've got the 1963 Firebird 1 reissue in a very beautiful Cardinal Red, and the 1963 Firebird 5 reissue with Maestro Vibrola, and that's in Polaris White. The SG is a 1964 SG Standard reissue, and that's also got a Maestro Vibrola in Cherry Red, and the 1962 ES335 reissue is available in 60s Cherry and Vintage Burst. Now, I'm not going to go through every model in this range because, well, time. But I'm going to go through my favorite, my top of the list, my pick of the week of the pick of the week, the 1957 Les Paul Gold Top. This 57 Les Paul Gold Top reissue is the standout of the bunch, the showstopper for me, the one that makes me go. It's got a carved maple top over a one-piece mahogany body, a glued-in neck with a long tenon, of course, and proportions that echo the golden era of Kalamazoo craftsmanship. It's a funny sentence, isn't it? Meaning, it's got a chunkier neck. Yes. Under the hood, the proper grown-up parts from Gibson. Gibson USA custom buckers, ear, neck, and bridge, so that's both positions, CTS pots, bumblebee capacitors, switchcraft jack and toggle switch, and that finish is what Epiphone calls vintage gloss, which is a thin, they say semi-nitro feel. I just hope that it doesn't choke the resonance of some of those heavy poly finishes of the past, because that really sucked. Let's talk about the neck. It is a 50s rounded medium C. Chunky, yay, but not clubby. Ah. And the rosewood fretboard comes with 22 medium jumbo frets and trapezoid inlays. This is all anchored by a vintage correct ABR1 bridge and an aluminium stop bar tailpiece. The tuners are single ring Keystone Kluson style units, and yes, all the guitars in this range have the open book Gibson silhouette headstock with an Epiphone logo that people like and doesn't feel like a design compromise. Although I personally don't really have a problem with the Epiphone headstock. It ships in a brown Lipton style hard case with a pink plush interior. If you're going for the aesthetic, Epiphone have pretty much nailed it. We do need to talk about money, because I recently reviewed this Epiphone Les Paul Custom Widow, which is coming in at $799. And for me, that is the top end of where most Epiphones should be. Seeing Epiphones over 1,000 notes makes me question what we're doing. And the 1,700 notes for the Firebird 5 seems way over the top. But back to this Les Paul Custom. I'll put it down, otherwise I'll end up playing it. Back to the Les Paul Custom. It is a great feeling Epiphone, but it's still not a Gibson. Epiphone have managed to impress me with it, so if they can do the same with the Inspired by Gibson series and actually get close to offering an expensive alternative to Gibson, then I think we should give Epiphone a chance. I'm nervous about saying stuff like that. I did play the Gibson Greenie recently, and I bought one. More on that in another video. And I played the Epiphone Greenie, and I thought the Epiphone was great until I played the Gibson. So I'd still love to, to see this series and shoot it out against an actual Gibson and see what we're getting really for our money. My guess is still an Epiphone, but for a lot of money. I still think Epiphone is expensive compared to other brands, other less authentic brands that offer similar designs and similar specs, and I'm still surprised that Gibson as a parent company are ignoring a large portion of the real budget guitar seekers. Where's the Maestro series? And now, back to the gold top. Priced around 1,200 notes, this isn't your usual Epiphone. It's more like, well, I hope it is more like a Gibson standard that's taken off its tuxedo and gone for a pint and a cigarette around the back of the pub. Get it if you've always lusted after a real gold top but couldn't justify remortgaging your house, because just on paper or on digital screen, this is one of the most convincing vintage style Les Pauls under $2,000 full stop. Maybe skip it if you're hunting for ultra modern features, chambered weight relief, or something radically different. This is unapologetically old school, and that's exactly the point. Thank you to the wonderful people that support this show on Patreon. Their names are up on screen right now. Hello, everybody. And these people support the show right here on YouTube. Hello there. How are you doing? If you want your name up in digital lights, then click the join button right here on YouTube or visit my Patreon link in the video description. And here is a special thanks to the top tier members. Alinta, Buddha Blue, Boom Shakalaka, Buzzle, Dirk, Doug Paget, Hugh G. Rection, Jindrik Strelka, Johnny McBadminton, Mike Lute. This prank is officially sponsored by Jason Welch, Andrew Morgan, Gary O'Neill, Josh Tamberg, Mandude Bro, PQ Deads, Robin Callie, Sarang Narayan, and Southern Panda 33. Thank you, top tier members. If you've got thoughts on this week's gear releases, especially if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments section, and I hope something good happens to you today. Bye! If you are a oh dear. Welcome to the end of the video. Victory's